Hi, everyone. Hey, it's a happy day. I mean, that other guy in the White House is still there, but there's a new guy in the Vatican. He's an American. So we have the first American Pope. Hey, hi, everyone. It's Emil. It's Emil Guillermo. Emil Amok to you. Welcome to Emil Amok's Takeout, my takes on all things considerable. We have an American Pope, and, I wasn't even thinking about it. I mean, they were talking about, oh, maybe an American Pope. And I said, oh, Donald Trump as the president of the United States is too much America for the world. It just is. I mean, as it is, he doesn't want to be the leader of the free world like they have been traditionally. No, he wants to withdraw, nationalize, be the big bully with the other big bullies. Russia and China meeting today. And that must make Trump feel a little weird because he's not with the big bullies, because he's the big bully. He wants to be the big bully. But what he did do today, he got this nothing thing with the Brits. The Brits trying to give him a fig leaf to save himself. Hey, yeah, we'll give you a deal. Yeah, we do so much, imports and exports from Britain. We'll send you all the bangers and mash you want, Donald. 2%, I think, is the number of the amount of imports from Britain to the United States. So it was really a lifesaver that Britain tossed at Donald Trump today, so he had something to say. Because otherwise, you'd have nothing to say. Because, I mean, I'm sure he was crossing his fingers and hoping that the Pope thing just kept going. Because people were looking for white smoke, black smoke. That could have gone on for the week, through the weekend. And he would have loved it. Because then he could just, do his thing and then people could pay attention to him. But no, as soon as we saw the white smoke, we knew there'd be a new Pope. But I don't know if anyone was as hopeful as to think that, oh, we could have an American Pope. I mean, an American Pope? Really? There's never been an American. See, that's the thing. There's never been an American Pope. And Francis spent all this time going to, expanding the church. And there was Asia and there was Africa. And the number one Pope, favorite was Tagle, the Cardinal Tagle, and Filipino. And I thought, oh, that'd be great. I'm Filipino. I mean, Filipinos need someone other than Manny Pacquiao, to be an image for the world. Manny Pacquiao, not such a great image for the world, really. Not anymore. I mean, homophobe, failed aging champion. I mean, so Tagle, I was hoping Tagle, but then there was this thought that maybe the church needed something different. Not just the church, maybe the world needed something different. And in fact, we did. Cardinal Robert Prevost. Leo the 14th, his name, his brand, Leo the 14th, the American Pope from Illinois, known as Father Bob. Spent most of his time, most recently in the Vatican, but most of his time in Peru as a missionary, and has, I think, dual citizenship with Peru. That's how much time he spent there. But his heart's in the right place, the first American Pope. And even a few days ago, AP was writing, of 266 popes who've led the Catholic Church, none of them have been from the United States. I mean, the nation is young, but there have been, while the relative youth of the nation means fewer than 20 of those men served after the U.S. Declaration of Independence in 1776, one prominent U.S. bishop has a possible explanation. Okay, this is a weird news story. It wasn't AP, it was CBS. But anyway, there's never been an American. So we have Father Bob. And I think it's the best thing for America. and for the world, and not just for Catholics, because what we have here is an American Pope, a man whose native language is English, although he's multilingual. He can effectively communicate a vision of peace, love, and unity in a world that is troubled by an amoral and divisive American presidency. I mean, that's the hope. That's how I see it. So when Cardinal Prevost, born in Illinois, emerged from that Vatican balcony, it was jaw-dropping. I mean, an American. That's not a Filipino. That's not an African cardinal. That's Prevost from Illinois, an American Pope. And you knew that something, or maybe the Cardinals knew that something special was needed. I mean, this is just the second day of voting when they made Prevost the historical choice. But they needed a unifier, a man who they saw in Prevost who might be the right man for the right time, because Prevost is, what I like to say, made in the USA, right? Which should please Donald Trump on one hand, but then again, Prevost is the natural antidote to Trump. Prevost is the anti-Trump. He's the first American Pope who will make the 47th president pay a spiritual tariff for his self-serving, harsh, pro-billionaire political ways. I mean, I think the Cardinals somehow divinely knew that in a world hampered by Trump's dangerous, narcissistic idiocy, the only way to offset all that would be to have an American Pope. And that's what they did. And just to make sure that people get it, I mean, really get it, you know, you're born, your baptismal name is Robert, Father Bob, right? But Prevost branded himself appropriately, taking the name Leo the 14th, Leo XIV, Leo the 14th. We need an intravenous shot right now of what Leo can provide. And of course, Prevost is a continuation of Francis. But when he takes the name Leo, he shows the world he's inspired by the previous Leo, Leo the 13th, the Pope who in the 1890s provided the guidance that helped bring the church into the modern era. Leo the 13th, if you go into your history books, seen as promoting a progressive vision of faith and social reform at the turn of the century. In his most famous encyclical, he spoke of the rights of workers to a fair wage. He spoke of safe working conditions, the formation of unions. And, you know, it's not like he was a socialist. He was sort of in the middle, a centrist, but for a fairer brand of capitalism. So he's the natural counterpoint to Trump, who's taking America to the world back in the 1870s, right? That's even before Leo the 13th. But, you know, Trump's policies, tariffs, immigration, nationalism, very 19th century. And so here's Prevost as Leo XIV, Leo the 14th, branding himself in the path of Leo the 13th. He wasn't as specific as what Leo the 14th or 13th said in his encyclical, right? But the very first message to 1.4 billion Catholics was what you'd expect, a message of love. He said, God loves us. God loves everyone. And, you know, this is from the translation from the Italian, but it was said in a far more meaningful way than a hack politician would say, God bless America in their speeches. You could tell Prevost, the new Pope Leo the 14th, was very serious. He said, evil will not prevail. We are all in the hands of God. Therefore, without fear, united hand in hand with God and amongst ourselves. Let us go forward. We are disciples of Christ. Christ goes before us. The world needs his light. Humanity needs him like a bridge to God and his love and to all others. Help us and all others to build bridges. Oh, that bridges. The idea of bridges came up so many times in his address, his short address, as he emerged, the new Pope. Help us and all others to build bridges with dialogue, with meaning, to be one common people living always in peace. And that's the bridge to all others, no matter what your faith, all other religions. If you're spiritual, if you're non-spiritual, we're human beings. We're here in the name of humanity, building bridges to each other, meeting to be one common people living always in peace. That was a little paraphrase for me with a little bit of Leo thrown in. One common people living always in peace. And then he thanked the late Pope Francis, which brought cheers from the crowd. And I'm just watching. Let's say I'm about 6,000, 7,000 miles away, right here in California. And I'm thinking, as an American Catholic, I admit I was stunned at the news. Yeah, because, well, I as a Filipino American, I was rooting for Tagle. But now I see the Filipino known as American Francis, or known as the the Filipino Francis, sorry, just wouldn't have had the same impact as the naming of an American in this critical time, the age of Trump. I meant the Asian Francis, not the American Francis. Technically, he would have been nice. It would have been a continuation of Francis, right? The expansion of the church. This charismatic good guy Tagle. But this was something more. It's like the Cardinals knew that they needed something more. We're in the age of Trump, and we needed something more. So don't look to where the church is expanding. Look to where the church is contracting and figure out, why is it contracting? Why are people leaving the church, the American church? I think that probably had something to do with it. They turned and looked at the world. And they saw how the American president, 47, was doing his thing that was tearing the world apart, dividing the world. They saw how the church was in pretty much in crisis in America. You know, with the scandals, you know, I think they paid something like $5 billion from 2000 to today. The latest from the bishop's report. $5 billion. I mean, the church, the American church, is in trouble. So instead of going and embracing Asia and Africa and all the other places where the church is growing, it looked to America and said, this is the time, an American Pope. I mean, that's my speculation. That's how I interpret it. But who needs the church's teaching more than America? The church's teaching is the first will be last, the last will be first. That's amongst the teachings of the church. You hear it over and over again in Mass. The first will be last, the last will be first. Trump believes the first will be first, always, and damn the last. That's what Pope Leo is up against. The first will be first, damn the last. And that's the guy the American people voted for. That's the guy the American people could not repudiate. American people could not say, get out of here, you don't deserve to be president. He didn't win by a landslide. He won by just a small margin. But the American people couldn't see Donald Trump and couldn't see a man who was a convicted felon, 34 counts, was not fit to be president. And now what do we see? We see a man saying the other day, would he uphold the Constitution? I don't know. You don't have doubts if you're going to be the American president. And that's the state where the United States is. We got a president who was found liable for sexual assault, someone who is a documented pathological liar. Maybe Cardinal Prevost, Leo the 14th, was sent to save us all. I mean, the missionary work maybe needs to begin right here and among people who have turned away from the church. So my question is, how will we respond? You know, it was during COVID that kept me away from Mass. I haven't returned. I've also expressed my dissatisfaction with the church's action on its abuse problem, as well as other rules on LGBTQ, marriage, women in the church. There's a big thing about how Francis was very big about, or he mentioned the idea of women in the diaconate as deacons. Now, reportedly, Prevost is opposed to ordaining women as deacons. So he's conservative on church doctrine. But Francis, I heard another report saying Francis was, even though he was slow on this idea, he was ultimately for women in the diaconate. The diaconate is like a step below women being priests. I would like to see them go all the way, but it's incremental. But I do know that the church's teachings, the church's rules, canonical law, doesn't make sense to me. I might be seen as a loudmouth, but it just needs to make sense, right? Women in the church, their role has to improve. I have a personal thing about the diaconate because maybe 10 years ago, maybe five years ago, now, it wasn't that long ago, I was looking to be a deacon. I was looking to join the diaconate. I've never really publicly said that. Maybe I have, but not in any of my columns, I think. I was rejected for being too old. And that is one of those man-made rules. God didn't say I was too old. I was younger than all those guys who were out there, acting as deacons. I would have enjoyed my role as a deacon, but they didn't give me a chance. And I was worthy, and I was a male. Now, one of the big things is, will they allow women to be deacons? And Prevost, apparently, according to reports, is against that. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I know that I'm still somewhat a lapsed Catholic, but with an excuse. As I said, the man-made rules don't seem very godlike. But now with Prevost Louis XIV, because we need an IV, Catholic Church needs an IV, we got a new chapter. I don't know what Prevost Louis XIV is going to do about those aforementioned policies and practices I disagree with. But you got to admit, an American Pope putting out the call is enticing, even to a catechism kid like me. I mean, they're two two paths, right? You go to Catholic school, you go to catechism, you go to public school. And I thank my parents that they sent me to public school, and then I got a little catechism. But then I was confirmed on April Fool's Day. So, but still, this is a time when more people are turning away from Catholicism, yet they want and crave something more spiritual. And I think people may look back and be open to a call from Leo XIV and answer affirmatively. I know I'm staying awake. Because I was moved today when I saw an American standing before, the square there, up in the balcony speaking. It's something. I mean, if you grew up Catholic school, catechism, the popes were always foreign. They weren't American. Although it didn't really matter, right? They were the Pope. That was Il Papa. But this is an American guy. This is Father Bob from Illinois. I think it's going to energize the church. That's my feeling. I hope it does. I think it will. But ultimately, does it bring me all the way back? Let's see. Let's see how the church changes. Let's see how it stands on the rules, on women, on LGBTQ, on simple matters like marriage and divorce. Let's see how strict, how conservative, how open, how progressive. And we'll see how strong they are on these other issues. Issues that make me look at the American Pope, that make me look at Leo XIV, and say, yeah, this is the guy who is the anti-Trump. And that's a guy we need. Quick check around the internet. I like to look at the Borowitz report, Andy Borowitz. And he talked about how Trump is going to send the Pope a $60 Bible, a $60 Trump Bible. I think I know what the Pope can do with a $60 Trump Bible. Yeah, just put it in the library, among the library discards. Anyway, but just seeing everyone be excited about this, I think it's going to have a lasting effect. Because Catholics get kind of, same thing in Mass, same thing. And, I don't want to sound like I'm so liberal as a Catholic. I'm liberal if I think I can come back. But I used to like the Latin Mass. I would go out of my way and drive, not too long ago, maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I would drive to go to a Latin Mass. I didn't know Latin. I didn't speak Latin, but, people are into the mystery of it, right? I mean, that's part of the Catholic thing. I mean, you wish they would give you more verses from the Bible and let you read the entire Bible. The Catholic Bible is a small little thing. Oh, we just pick selected things so that you don't go astray. I guess. I never knew the reason for that. Why they wouldn't just give us the whole Bible. Because they didn't want us to see the contradictions. I don't know. But, yeah, it was, so I don't want to say or paint myself as just a total progressive Catholic. Totally. I'm not a cafeteria Catholic either, although that's what the conservatives call someone like me. But I have to admit, as a Catholic watching the proceedings and seeing the world, look, white smoke, black smoke, kind of exciting. And everyone was like, they realized the importance of this spiritual organization that we're a part of, this brotherhood, fellowship, this, I don't just say all brother and sisterhood. And people were into it. They were watching. 1.4 billion of us. Imagine how strong we could be if we were together, if we were really united, if we were building, in the words of Leo XIV, made in the USA, if we were just walking together, right? What was his phrase that I quoted? He said, the world needs his light. He's talking about Christ. Christ goes before us. The world needs his light. Humanity needs him like a bridge to God and his love and to all others. Help us and all others to build bridges with dialogue, with meeting, to be one common people living always in peace. So let's find that commonality. We could be different. We could have different faiths, but we are all common people. We have a commonness by being here in this age, in this time, in this world. Let's build those bridges. That was the message, the first message of Leo XIV, aka Cardinal Robert Prevost, the American from Chicago. And I think I'm excited. I want to hear more. He's going to say some masses tomorrow. He's going to do more speaking. People, he'll go around. I wonder if the Pope Mobile will be made in the USA, or how he's going to. They're trying to figure out, where's he going to live. Is he going to live with the people? So, or is he going to, like Francis, or is he going to live in the fancy schmancy Vatican digs that they have set up for the Pope? I don't know. Now, the only one thing I will say that really got me, that made me think, maybe he's not my guy. The guy likes math. Okay, I don't want to be too harsh on him. The guy likes math, and it's not. I had a young nephew who came up to me recently and said, "Oh, Dad," or he said, "Uncle, I don't really like English or history, but I love algebra." He said, "Oh God, loves algebra." No, it's good. It's good if you love. I like the people who are like double threats. They're good in math and English, but clearly I'm good in neither. But Pope Leo, XIV, math major, Villanova, and truth be told, not much older than me. And he's Pope. And they wouldn't let me into the diaconate 5 years ago. He's Pope. The Pope from Chicago. Anyway, we pray for the Pope. We always have to pray for the Pope. And I think it's going to make a difference. I think it's going to make a difference for people who are Catholic in the United States. And I think in terms of the world, right, the bias against an American Pope has gone away now that they've seen the kind of craziness that Trump's putting out. And I think what they wanted, the push toward an American Pope was to have someone who could stand up and be the moral leader of the world versus the amoral president. My opinion. So anyway, it's a happy day though, right? And you got to admit that I listened to some commentators and they're saying, well, there's no anxiety or frustration. People were just looking at the smokestacks, and there was like pictures. They showed pictures of the smokestack and had the birds. Right, the birds are on the rooftop. It was kind of like, oh, a message from on high saying, yeah, hold on to your hats. We're gonna name one. Someone's coming. And then the white smoke came, and everyone's happy, and it's great. So I just a friend of mine says the world has another American to see on the world stage instead of Donald Trump, hopeful and faithful today. And that's a good point. My friend John Trezina says that. I believe that too. I'm hopeful. The world has another American to see on the world stage instead of Donald Trump. Hopeful and faith. I think that's what you got to be. You got to be hopeful and faithful today. The commentators were talking about how it was palpable. You could feel it. There was something there in the square. They could feel it. I think it's exciting. God, I may have to go to church again. I do COVID church, I go online because, now communion, they just give you spiritual communion. I may have to go all the way back. Like I said, I'm going to stay awake. I'm staying awake. Because, we all crave spirituality. We all crave something. And that was the New York Times has a spirituality reporter. She's on the spirituality beat. Talked about how we want something. We just don't know what. That's different from the religion and politics person who I saw on television today from the New York Times. So it's just one of those things where, yeah, I think this is an exciting time to be Catholic in America, because that's where the church, I think, needs it the most. $5 billion in monies paid out to victims of Catholic priests. You don't have to wonder why there's a loss of faith amongst the flock in America. But this is a way in, a way back in, a way to maybe give hope to people who've given up on a church with its man-made rules and are looking to signs from on high, looking for a sign from God. That's where they usually come from, right? Those are the signs you believe in. If some guy named Bob came in, would you believe him? Well, maybe this Bob you believe in. All right, so we shall swish out. All right, I'm trying to keep these things short. I'm going to keep repeating this on all the different methods that I send this out. Pass it around, send it to your friends, like it on Facebook, like it on YouTube. I guess I'll have to change my Pope material in my stand-up routine. Just a reminder, I'm going to be at the Marsh in San Francisco next Monday, the 12th, and then again Monday the 19th. Just doing a 10 minute bit, short. But come see me, San Francisco Marsh, 1062 Valencia Street in San Francisco. And then I'll be back at the Monday Night Marsh in June 2nd, I believe. Get your tickets at themarsh.org. Go to Monday Night Marsh. All right. We end with a little loving kindness, because we're happy today. Like I said, this is the kind of news story we all like to cover. And we're waiting for the good news of the Pope, or and there's no, I don't know if there were any deceptive politics going on or whatever, but it's exciting, and it's inspiring and uplifting, and it makes you feel good to be Catholic. And knowing that there's going to be these bridges being built to all those others. Even if you're not Catholic, it should be good. I mean, the world wants a spiritual leader who will speak to the times and will speak out against number 47. But now we know we have the first American Pope, and he will speak out. We know, I mean, he's spoken out about, J.D. Vance, spoken out, about McGrath. There's a lot to speak out against, violating the sanctuary ideas, protecting migrants at churches. But Leo XIV is going to speak out. He fought for the poor in Peru. I just think one of the things that I never forget, and because it just keeps repeating in the church, in the Gospels, in the hymns, just that phrase, the first will be last, the last will be first, teaching us all about humility, love. It's a great message. It's a church message. Totally opposite of what Donald Trump teaches. The first will be first, always. Darn it. That's... Anyway, we end with a little loving kindness. It's spiritual, non-denominational. If you know it, it goes something like this. As I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Till next time. Mahal